welcome in as strong a way as I can express it. It is wonderful that you're here. You're here. Interrupted, complicated schedules and so on to be here. Thank you so much for being here. I know that old what's her name appreciates it.
Love you all. You're fantastic.
Woo!
Yeah.
Woo!
No better place to be.
At the children's table.
With some one exception. I think I also really need to thank Dorsey and Bull for just an immense amount of administrivia and even more serious work to make this happen. I sort of sat back and, when I'd see what the kids can do, and I think what the kids can do is pretty good. Now, before we get to the sort of details of how the evening will unfold, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, I can say the way the evening will unfold is if you all feel inclined to say anything, I would encourage that you say it. You've all been vetted so that there won't be anything. The way to do it is bang your glass, and at that point Betsy will indicate that someone wants to talk. You'll see how she'll do this in a minute.
That's not it. That's not it.
That's not it.
I think that's a good way to sort of keep it a little organized. So please
I
bring
think
your
Dorsey
requests
just
to
gave it
Betsy
away.
Just by banging your glass, and she'll decide whether she'll listen to what you have to say or not. So Dorsey, why don't you do what you'd like to do, and then.
So one of the things we were thinking about with Mom and coming up with a overall theme, because when you're organizing something, you need an overall theme, because otherwise it's chaos, and as a first child, I hate chaos.
I love chaos.
And so, yeah, that's why we married. And so what we thought about with Mom is how for decades she's been fighting the fight, right? Literacy, women in business, international developing countries, and whatever. And just about that time, I happened to be on an airplane watching the notorious RBG
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
movie. So, Ruth Bader, I thought,
The documentary.
my mom is notorious EJW. She's been doing this forever. So, Mama,
Yes.
here's your gavel. When you decide if someone wants to speak,
Okay.
you speak.
Okay.
Can you
And-
practice, Betsy? Practice
practice?
pounding.
Yes. Oh, jeez.
Wait, that's why I said practice.
It's working. I have a feeling that Dad is not going to like this gavel.
Maybe I should not put it.
That's not
It's
my
also for
business.
use at the dinner table for the rest of your life.
For the rest of your life, right. And then the second thing is that one of the things I learned is that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a hero of mine, has a dissent collar. So every time she dissents, she wears a specific collar when she comes to court that day. So.
This is
It's a beautiful necklace, Betsy. However,
I am not a DIY craftatorian.
That's for
However, I did make this from scratch watching a video. She wins the notorious EJW. There you go. So,
That's fantastic.
let the evening.
It's like the birthday hat, but
Let the trial begin.
Here we are.
I can't beg you out, sorry. Anyway.
How dare you? Anna speaks.
Roberta would like to say something.
Okay, I wanted to do this because I feel as if amongst this company, Larry and I have seniority in age, if nothing else. So this is from both of us, okay? And I'll put it in the box afterwards.
Larry, are you okay with this?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I'm deaf too, so.
Okay, so I'm Roberta, and that's Larry, and this is from both of us. Betsy and Bill are world travelers and from time to time have been expats, so it is not surprising that they should meet a whole new group of friends on a trip to China 21 years ago. There is some dispute about how we met, but if memory serves, we decided to go to a hotel bar in Beijing to have a nightcap. There were 6 of us, including Peggy and Al Atherton, who are not here tonight. We all ordered drinks, nothing exotic, we knew better, except for Peggy, who wanted drambuie. After 45 minutes, Bill went to the bar and inquired politely about the whereabouts of our cocktails. Unable to figure out what drambuie was, our waitress simply packed up and went home. That's how we met Betsy. So the rest of us each had a beer and Peggy had a glass of water, and we make fun of her to this day. The other memory, which is more Betsy's than mine, is that on this same trip we were at a hotel in Shanghai. There were 200 and some of us in a hotel on a rooftop for a pre-dinner cocktail party. There were 200 of us with 1 bar and 1 bartender. So Betsy quickly scoped out the scene, captured a bottle of wine, Great Wall, you will recall, and a corkscrew. So the Webbers and the Krakoffs had their own party while 198 other people waited in line.
Betsy, how did you steal that bottle of wine?
Reach over the bar?
No, I just got in there, but the Great Wall was the only one there was.
It was the only drinkable
It was
wine.
the only drinkable, and that was questionable.
But please don't think that our entire friendship revolves around drinking. It doesn't. Well, there was that one time in Lenox when Betsy and I were anxious to have a drink. And so we ordered a bottle of wine, saying as the waitress left the table, "And 2 straws, please." Guess what? She came back with a bottle of wine and 2 straws. We have had many, many adventures abroad and here. Weekends in Sandysfield with music and classes. Weekends in Ridgefield celebrating birthdays, New Year's, and sometimes just going to the movies. And of course, New York, the Yale Glee Club concerts, Chanticleer, theater, and art tours. Through it all, we have remained dear friends. So here's to Betsy's 9th decade. She is a remarkable woman, and we have been so fortunate to have her as our friend. I don't think that anyone should go into their 9th decade without Andy Warhol socks.
Oh.
There you go.
Thinking the same thing earlier.
Being that amazing person that it was always great to see and always great to be around. And I want to just take a moment and say, from being 5 years old on the sands to being 52 years old right now, thank you for your continuity and your love and your
Keeping you alive.
keeping me alive. Yes, I want to thank Aunt Betsy for keeping me alive.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so this, because my mom is my mom, I know that adventure is the secret sauce of happiness. And saying, yes, I'd love to, is a muscle that can weaken if I don't develop it.
That's very nice.
Very nice.
He's like, shit.
Could you repeat that?
I thought these were going to be funny little riffs.
All right,
So
well,
my
I got one
my
of those.
first one is, because my mom is my mom, I have giant teeth and my nose starts above my
That's why we're
Roast
siblings.
begins, yeah. I think that's perfect, actually, for the 2 of you.
Okay. Because my mom is my mom, I got to watch a person grow within her 58-year marriage, reinventing herself as necessary and blending into their we without giving up your own sense of purpose and humor and vulnerability.
Yeah.
All right, folks.
My mom.
Okay, there.
Because my mom is my mom, I learned to make fearless life decisions. Because she always did. And that was big for me. Not always in a good way, but I have no regrets now. I look at the way that she embraced things like when we moved abroad that were going to be tough. She was not a stay-in mom. She was out there founding charities and doing all these sorts of things. And I just learned from that. You get dealt a hand, but you don't have to just sit there and play that hand. You can sort of change the game.
Cheat?
Not cheat, but you can reframe things. And I learned that at an early age when we did that, and it's been extremely helpful for me and useful for me throughout my life. And I'm grateful for the life that I've had, and I would not have had that without you.
Okay. Dorsey, beat that.
Because my mom is my mom. No. Because my mom is
Dorsey,
my
kick some butt here. Go, Mom. Woo.
Because my mom is my mom. I learned.
My mom too.
Thank you. I learned that you need to get in the fight for things you believe in, like working for literacy, for education for girls, for microloans and business loans for families to come out of poverty in developing countries. You cannot sit on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Dorsey's up by 5. There's about 10 seconds.
It's the bracket, baby.
Because my mom is my mom, I learned to prize compassion and empathy above all
Aw,
other
shit.
things.
From downtown.
And one.
That was like a dunk. Because my mom is my mom, I learned to make a bouche to Noel. Yes.
Wow.
Jelly roll rolling, you need 4 hands. I make wicked good soups now, and I learned how to remove stitches in a hotel room with only tweezers and scissors.
I guess I have to do this.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. It's gonna crush it.
Because my mom is my mom, I never lost faith in myself. She never lost faith in me.
Alright, I'll meet that. Because my mom is my mom, I learned that being a lady isn't all that it's cracked up to be, but being a strong woman is worth it.
Yeah.
We love you.
Great duo.
I'm certainly the youngest person here. The inside joke between me and Zer, you wouldn't get it. We get along great.
Thank you, Art.
Shout out.
Growing up with Granny, having been an infant and then a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and so on year old, it was weird. It was a lot. Because, you start to learn to talk. You start to learn to say things. And, when you're 4 and 5, you get to sit at the real table. And you get to hear people having these discussions about things that you didn't know existed. And then you realize that there's stuff to hear. So you start listening for a couple of years. You go, wow, these people really know what they're talking about. This is amazing. So you start to pay attention for a couple of years. And then you start paying attention. You start learning more. And then you eventually start hearing people talk about things and you think, oh, I know what they're talking about. I heard about that. That's amazing. And then a couple years after that, you think, I think they're wrong about that. That's completely wrong. And so you sit on that for a couple years.
Without
Wait for a
saying
couple more
anything.
years, and
A
we'll
couple
tell
more
them.
years, and then eventually you get the courage to go, hey, Graham, no, not quite. And then you get to play the game, and then you get to be you get to be at the table, and you get to talk and learn and hear about all just the immensity of all the possible things that can be thought about stuff. And it's cool to think about stuff, and it's fun to think about stuff. And if you're good at it, or if you enjoy it, sorry, that's the news to say, but if you're good at it and you enjoy it, it's a way that you can live your life, learning new things and thinking about new things, and it sort of becomes a hunger. And so I've spent a lot of my time just bouncing around doing whatever. And I think the only identifiable goal that I've really had is to live a life that is half as interesting and cool as what you guys have been up to. I mean, being expats and just helping the amount of people you've helped. So, I mean, I say to a lot of people that I've learned to talk around your table. And I was probably just trying to get laid when I said it the first time.
Did it work?
Excuse me.
TMI?
But just I've not yet realized, I think, really what it means to have been your grandkids and to be this kind of person that has the privilege of having the kind of conversations that we've had and having the types of arguments and discussions. I don't think I know what that means for me yet. As I get older, I start realizing how much that really means to me. That I don't know, that I'm not afraid of when somebody disagrees with me, and I'm not afraid when somebody knows more than me. It's just really it's been a constant source of gratitude for me that I got to be in a family, that I was lucky enough to be born into a family that disagreed, that argued, that just reveled in knowing things and talking about things. I don't know, it's just been great.
Grammy, if it's all right, I'm gonna immediately follow. Wait,
Not that we
is
know
it?
each other.
Is it okay? Is it? Oh,
Thank you.
okay.
You have permission.
It's actually kind of scary to wait for the.
You were trying to get laid?
Hasn't happened yet. Soon enough.
Did it work?
So,
Talking about your
Eric and I
grandmother?
grew up as children at Grammy and Zer's dinner table. Just like Eric said, listening to things we had no idea about. I remember being absolutely terrified. The first question I remember being asked is, how do you feel about the situation in Libya? I was like 7 years old. I didn't know what Libya was. I didn't know if it was a country or a food. Or and I think I just ran. But just like Eric said, you start to grow and you listen, and then you start to learn, both because you need to learn, otherwise everything is scary. And because you realize it's actually really interesting and really fun to be able to have these kind of talks with people around a table. Whenever people ask how I became who I am today, I credit essentially 3 places. It is my parents' house, Omega, and it is Grammy and Zer's dinner table. Nothing else in my life has prepared me for anything that I've done better than those places, and nothing in my life has prepared me for the challenges of my life better than Grammy and Zer's dinner table. You get challenged, you are told, you are questioned at every turn in a great, supportive, sort of critically thinking way. And I don't think I really appreciated that until I was, 18, 19, 20, and you get to places where people disagree with you all the time. But
Remember we used to practice in the car on the way
I
over to
do.
their house?
You're
not supposed to tell anybody
You waited a
I'd
couple
ask
years,
them,
now you
I'd ask them, okay boys, what happened in Syria today?
The great thing about that is that it didn't matter what our answer was, as long as we had an answer. And that was the same with Grammy and Zer's questions, which was a really big jumping point, actually, when you realized that the answer didn't matter as long as Grammy and Zer realized that you thought about the answer and really given it some time. That was what was important around the dinner table, was your ability to think, not your actual opinion on a situation. But Eric and I and Camden, who grew up around these dinner tables, would not be anywhere near the people we are today, and I hope that's a compliment. So, really,
She's in law
Grammy,
school.
thank you so much.
It
You're an
is.
incredible
It
woman.
Very, very nice.
That was lovely, wasn't it?
He was trying to get away.
Love you, and I'm sorry I didn't really prepare anything, primarily because I miss my mom and dad.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do too.
But the Webbers and the Sickingers have spent basically our whole lives together. My brother, who is the less emotional one and the much better, well-written one, has prepared something he would like me to read for you.
Okay.
So he says, "Greetings from Oregon. There is nothing that would give me greater pleasure than to be with you tonight in the bosom of my extended family, celebrating this milestone with you. I don't say bosom lightly, because Betsy Weber and Bill and Bull and Dorsey are literally my second family. They're our second family. The saga of our families, if it were to ever be written, is so deeply intertwined that it's impossible for me to say where one begins and the other ends. Fortunately, no one is ever going to write that story. What happens in the family stays in the family. Maybe, and well, actually, it could be a very good book, and Ted's thinking about writing one. Either way, it's really impossible for me to overstate my affection for the two of you, even with my clear preference for Betsy. Actually, I have trusted and deeply valued friendship with both Betsy and Bill. That could be because I was force-fed the Singers Unlimited from a very early age, and consequently suffer from the Stockholm Syndrome. But I really think it was cemented during our lost year in London. He calls it his lost year, 1981 to 1982. You guys were disoriented after leaving Dubai, and I was simply a disoriented 18-year-old up to no good. The 6 a.m. tennis matches in Norland Square and having a second set of parents for a year probably didn't hurt me too much. But that was clearly the beginning of our adult relationship. That's when I learned I could trust both of you, even when it came to shooing away the police who came to arrest me for fare dodging on British Rail. So here I am, 36 years later. 5 decades of my life have been spent in consultation with Betsy Weber. How fortunate is that? Betsy has always been the quiet presence in the Weber marriage, to say the least. But she's a relentless, positive presence, steady, rational, and emotionally consistent. She's always ready with a big smile, a warm laugh, and a good counsel when you seek it. And to my good fortune, I have sought it with some regularity over the years. Betsy, you are one of the warmest, most comforting presences in my life. Thank you for the unconditional love you have lavished on me. As much as I admire Betsy's emotional intelligence, and as much as I appreciate her backup motherhood, it is her intellect and integrity that I have grown to admire over the last few decades. We all have choices in the way we conduct ourselves, what we choose to devote our time to, and how we participate in our communities. So much of that dialogue is negative these days. I'm not telling anyone in this room anything new, but Betsy Weber is a powerful countervailing force. An accomplished business leader, she was an advocate and a partner for women in the third world before that was a topic on most people's radar. She has dedicated herself to supporting women's entrepreneurship in the United States, and while she could be kicking back and enjoying her retirement, she has been pushing to improve educational opportunities for kids in New Haven. Betsy is a global citizen who acts locally. She is a personification, I think, of what it means to be an engaged citizen. She is an exemplar. Fortunately, Betsy isn't leaving us anytime soon, but she is busy leaving the world a better place than she found it, and I deeply respect her for it. Betsy, happy 80th. I love you. Please join me in a toast to a beautiful, wonderful aunt.
Yes. Wow.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
I've torn up my notes. I'm speaking from the heart. I hope you'll vote for Betsy. But I've known Betsy all her life and had great
There's
fun
Dory.
with her, especially when we were 7 and 8
Recreate
or
that
9.
pyramid. Recreate that tonight.
Yeah.
And Betsy and I were the two musketeers. I lived in the neighborhood around the corner with my grandmother, and we went to the woods and had adventures. And Betsy was very brave. She was always walking on a high limb or a high wall, and I was very admiring of that because I was more timid and scared of those things. And I think that's many people have talked about her courage here tonight, and I do want to second that and say how much I love you, Betsy. And you've been a great cousin.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Oh. Teeny
I
duo.
can go down there. Okay. Okay, hi everyone. My
Hi.
name is Camden. How are you?
Hi.
So my mom and I kind of joined the party, the Weber party, a little bit later than some other people. We hopped on the train when I was what, like 1 year?
1 and a half.
1 and a half.
Turns 3 here.
And were you cute?
Yeah, okay. I was cute.
You were a cute baby.
You were really cute.
Yeah, you are.
Tracy wasn't so bad either. I'm just saying. You know.
But yeah, so we were a little bit late to the party, but we were welcomed, I'd say, with pretty open arms.
Oh, hugely open arms.
Big hearts. Immediately welcome to the table, and immediately my opinion mattered. And I was like, you know, a little shithead, like running around, like who cares what a 2-year-old, 3-year-old thinks, but immediately sat around that table, and what I thought mattered, even if it had, you know, to do with like ice cream or some, you know, how much I love the color
like
pink.
coffee. Tastes like coffee. I'm sorry.
But my life would not be nearly as wonderful had I not become a Weber. And you had so much to do with that. And I would not be nearly as strong or as confident in being a woman and being a human on this planet were it not for you and for your
You've made it so close.
were it not, you know, for me being able to watch you grow and continue to inspire everyone,
yeah, me
everyone that you meet. And most of all, you brought my favorite person in the entire world to this planet, my dad. And so, thank you so much for that.
Where's my napkin?
But I love you, Grammy. Happy birthday.
And may it please the court. I got my yellow beagle pad.
Spoken like a lawyer.
I don't know if I can say anything different or better than what has already been communicated, but also to add my sentiment to the same thoughts and love that has been shared. I read a quote recently from Emerson that said, "Do not follow where the path may lead, but go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." And that's certainly been your life as I've learned about it from Wheaton and Dubai and New York and all the wonderful things you've done that people have talked about. And not only have you blazed a trail in your own life, but you've led that and a legacy to all of us. You've heard the stories about people, the grandkids at the table. Well, before you ran that gauntlet, the first nickname I ever had in my life was Archibald Cox in 1972 because he was a special counsel fired in the Watergate. So it's 6 years old through your connection with my parents and the family. I understood what was going on in the world and cared about it. And it probably formed in part what I am and what I think about today. You have been an inspiration to me in so many ways. Your international take, talking around the table with you and Bill about the places you've lived and the things you knew and the
Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I probably took classes and majored in graduate school in Middle East studies because of that. And I'm probably a better critical thinker and lawyer, the career that I had, in part because of what you instilled in all of us and what you've heard for the next generation. You've also been a rock and stable glue in the family. You know, when I think about as a parent, being a mom to Dorsey and to Bull, God bless you. I won't talk about Bill, he's great too. But, you know, throughout your life, and to hear it tonight, through your inspiration to, you know, your nephews and the family and the grandkids, you have been committed and interesting and blazed a trail that makes us want to follow and do interesting, wonderful things in our life.
Yes,
Which you all have.
Happy birthday.
And Betsy was in high school and was very committed to swimming. And I was really impressed with her commitment and how she persevered, and it was an important lesson. And then from there, to watch her be such a success in college, to see her have a successful marriage, to see her raise her children, these were all important learnings and guideposts for me that helped me as I was trying to do the same. But we also had a lot of fun together, and we did some really fun things. When Linda and I were first dating, they took us into New York and said, "This is how you do New York."
For my 18th birthday.
For her 18th
And you could drink in New York at 18.
Yeah. This is how you do New York, Bob. We went skiing in New Hampshire.
I remember that.
That was kind of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we had a lot of fun together, but Betsy, I love you so much, and thank you for everything that you've done for me, the guidance that you've given me, and I have watched you. You may not even have known it, but you have set such a wonderful example for me.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Very sweet.
I've been 18 for
Done. Okay, so this is just gonna be quick. I didn't really write anything down. I just wanna say thank you so much, Betsy. Camden and I came up here really kind of out of faith and just adored this man
Love.
here. Totally just love, yeah.
Love.
Fate loves the fearless, right? That was
Yep.
written on
Yes.
our wedding pamphlet. And we were welcomed in with open arms and no judgments, no sort of expectations. Bull and I lived together for several years, and then he proposed to me, and I said yes.
It sounded sort of like,
Yeah. I'm not really sure he proposed. So I'm not really sure that he really asked. I'm not sure what he said. And you know, you and Dorsey, of course, helped me so much with planning the wedding, and I got to wear that amazing,
The dress.
beautiful
dress.
wedding dress
Magic dress.
that other people have worn in this room. And that was really, really special. I did not have my mom for most of my, well, 6 years or so when Cam and I moved here, and you just sort of stepped in there, and that was really beautiful and special, and I appreciate that. Helping with the wedding meant a lot to me, and I just am so grateful for that. I do remember at one point when we were talking about our wedding and getting married, one thing you said to me, and maybe I should have been worried about this, is you said to me, "He's your problem now." He's your man now. Right? You remember that? Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, and
wrong.
so you know, it's true. It's true.
It's
So,
true.
It is true.
It's
yeah.
true.
And
I kept him alive,
Right.
and it was a challenge.
for the first 35 years, and now it's up to
35
me
years,
now.
And then I said he's yours.
So, and just to sort of reiterate what Camden said, you know, Bull is so special to us and to me, and thank you for him. But thank you just so much for welcoming us into the
Hey, everybody, don't worry. But this was in the men's room, and I think it's very unfair that only the men should get to stare at this and wonder.
While
I'm
we're
just gonna
peeing.
put this around the table. I hope it gets passed around. Scan it for a little bit, because it's quite a
It's
thing.
good stuff.
You'll-
That was
75.
75th
a few highlights. Cotton underwear is healthier. You didn't know that.
Grammyism.
Read a few of them, Mary.
Grammyisms, yes.
Grammyisms.
Things Grammy has said.
Table linens are a worthy obsession. Yes, of course they are. Fork on the left, spoon on the right. That one has gotten me through many of the times I've met my girlfriend's parents, for sure. Cattywampus is no way to play the piano, which I believe you taught me on, I think, Star, you the piano that you donated to us. Yeah,
We
played
paid
for Elise. Do you remember that? Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. But these are just, these just warm my heart. I remember it was, I don't remember exactly what
It was
birthday
fun,
it was, but
really fun.
we all compiled these things
Yeah.
that we remember of you, and they're just so much fun. So anyways, I'm gonna pass this around wherever, and yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And also, so there you go.
Carl. I'm a graphic designer. That's what I do.
This is one damn sexy woman.
I refer you to the photos on the wall also.
So says the Reverend.
So says the Reverend.
It was good.
I'd like to talk about my sister Betsy as a friend. Most of us mosey through life, picking up acquaintances and friends as we go along. But when we move to other places in the world, we kind of tend to loosen those bonds, and those friends fall away. Not so Betsy. Betsy is a keeper.
Betsy's
Yeah. Her friends are for a lifetime. And we are all here tonight, in part, to pay tribute to her ability to care for us and visit us and keep us in her thoughts. As her slightly older sister, it's been my privilege to have known and loved her all her life. And there are a couple of other people in the room who can attest to that. Certainly there is best friend Bill. Dorsey and Bull know how lucky they are to have had the mother they've had to bring them up. And as young adults, Cole and Eric and Camden are just beginning to be a friend of a person they've known all along as Grammy. But you know, it doesn't stop with family. And that's one of the most interesting things about this, I think. Betsy has friends that go way, way back. There are two friends from high school, Joyce and Ruth, who were with her at Nether Providence High School, whom she still sees and still visits. Her friend Susie, who lumbered through chemistry with her at Wheaton, is still loved and visited. Ann and Lou Chapin and their children, Tim and Julie, connected with Betsy and Bill sometimes in the 60s and have remained friends ever since, and I believe were visited last month. Everywhere Betsy and Bill have lived, they have picked up keeper friends. Howard and Jean McKinley in Dubai, Tim and Susie Sickinger and their children, Tim and Ted, who have been friends forever, I think. And as tribute, Tim is here tonight. That might be called a proof text. All the living whiffs from the 1960 group and their wives remain friends, continuing to meet and sing. And Betsy has often been their hostess in Brookfield. Bob Lindgren was especially helpful when they moved from London to New York. And when they did that, he was enormously helpful in helping them move into an apartment. Barney and Bonnie Stewart remain particularly close from that group. The Yale Alumni Chorus has been an important part of their lives in later years and has added lifetime friends such as Peggy and Al Atherton and Roberta and Larry Krakoff, who are with us tonight. And the move to Branford has brought new opportunities for involvement and service, including New Haven Promise, and a reacquaintance with their friend Pat Melton, who is also here with them tonight. The point of all this is that those of us who are gathered here tonight have entered and remained in the orbit of a lovely, talented, caring person. And we are very, very lucky. Betsy, we thank you for your friendship and we wish you happy birthday.
I don't want
Birthday, dear Betsy. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Wait, take a picture.
Wait a minute, we gotta get a picture of that.
It's hard to keep
There you go.
up because
Pull it down again.
And B, I wanna take it.
Queen
Get the-
and
get the
judge.
cousin.
Yes.
I need a sort of a clip in the back.
Wrap some serviettes around it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Betsy.
You're very welcome.
Just
The fat head.
Yeah, the fat head.
Your daughter made me do that.
You did.
Actually, it was the Rev. It was the
Oh,
Rev.
the Rev.
It was the Rev.
Tomorrow I know it's.
Stand for this with a
No,
judge?
no, no. I can't stand for you.
Back to work.
I just want to say I am absolutely blown away that all of you are here and all the wonderful things that you're saying about me. They're really not true.
Yes, they are.
And I fooled all of you all the time. Anyway, no, I would just like to say, I grew up in a very supportive family, and when my mother and father had their 35th wedding anniversary, Daddy said to Mother, "What do you want to do?" And she said, "I want to have all the kids come together somewhere." So they rented this house down in Ocean City, New Jersey, and we all came. And they did it every single year. Ocean City, Cape May, Stone Harbor, then it was Lake Placid, then it was Berkeley Springs and all this. But after my mother died, it sort of died away, but it went on for decades. Every year, we all got together. And that was so special because these kids, wherever they were living, came together and learned family and had fun and all those values. That's just amazing. So that was started. And after my father died, my mother continued it. She had a house every summer. Who could come, who couldn't come. She had a place somewhere. And so that really started this family tradition of always getting together. And I think it's meant so much to each of us as we've gotten together. The picture over there, the pyramids, I have to talk about the pyramids for a bit. This was when we were in high school, Starry.
15.
On top,
Are you 15 years old?
I think so.
on the bottom. And one year when we were in Cape May, Dorsey was trying to be a cheerleader, and she was doing gymnastics
And
all
she
the time.
kindly and compassionally
And
corralled the
it,
cousin.
it poured rain. And there's nothing worse at the beach than being in a small house and pouring rain. So Dorsey organized all these gymnastics out in the back with the cousins.
Organized. Organized is a great word.
And the kids trusted her. Rob said one time, Dorsey said, just fall back, do a flip backward, we'll catch you. And he just trusted her because he didn't know.
Whatever you say, Dorsey.
He was.
More
Just
terrifying to not do
just
what she
smile.
said.
Yeah, but.
And for God's sake, point your tongue.
So at the end of every show, there was a pyramid of all the cousins. So now at every single wedding of every single one of these people, we have had a pyramid. The bride is always on top, and the kids, as they've grown older, have gone down a layer and down a layer. So now they're on the bottom. But it's sort of a family tradition, this
It's
pyramid.
like Betsy wants to be on the top of a
I
pyramid.
Yeah, we should make a pyramid. Pyramid.
Table so we can have a pyramid. Anyway, I also wanted to thank, where is Tim?
Right here. Oh,
Right
Tim,
there.
right there.
Tim's parents, Tim and Susie, were two of our closest friends. I miss them too. But anyway, Tim and Ted and Bull and Dorsey, growing up together, was not always simple. Bull and Ted particularly were challenging, to say the least. John was the only one I had to keep alive. Anyway, we had a very, very special relationship with the Singingers. They were such good friends. And with the Chapins, as you say, and Tim and Julie and all of that, we've just had wonderful friends over the years. And that makes a huge, huge difference. Watching all you kids grow up has been such a joy. First, R2 and the Van Arn kids, then the next generation, Rob and Russ and the next generation. It's been really a pleasure. You are wonderful kids, thoughtful, challenging. We've had dinner conversations that are just above and beyond. One, I remember saying when we were moving to our kids, tell me the 10 things you really would like to have, the 10 things you'd throw out as soon as my back is turned. And after they did that, I said the same to our grandchildren. And Eric, the youngest, said, I want the dining room table. I said, oh, that's interesting. He was in an apartment with a backpack, no place. Why do you want a dining room table? He said, because that's where I grew up. That's where I learned to talk and to be part of the conversation. And that's what this family has really been about. We've had these conversations forever. So I am grateful, so grateful to all of you for coming here today, and to my friend Patricia Melton, who was an intern with us when we lived in Guilford, 35 years ago, a long time ago. Yeah. And now I'm working with her.
35 years? She looks 35.
So anyway, this has been very, very special. Tomorrow my head will go back to real. But thank you for coming. I love you all. You're all very special, each in your own way, but you're very special to me. So thank you.
awesome.
Only because that there are those invisible connection of love. Otherwise it would not work. It would be all distinction and divided. Now we did it and you did it. And for that, hold on, I have to breathe.
We got 2 words to say. Go Spartans!
You, all of you. So thank you.
And actually, what I'm going to say is simple to the point, I hope. I am the luckiest guy in the world. Stay collapse here. I love this woman. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the nice things you've said. I didn't expect to tear up, but I did. Thank you. I'm the luckiest man in the world, and I love this woman. Thank you. That's all.
What I just want to say is I'm taking off my dissent collar because I have to agree this is the best family ever. No dissent at all of you. It's been so special, and the secret, the conference calls in the bathroom furtively. When are you leaving? When are you going out? The memos, the step-by-step, I'm sure it was awesome. I'm glad I didn't know any of it. But thank you, Dorsey, Paul, Bill. And thank you all for coming because that really made it very special. Okay? I'm still notorious, but I'm not dissenting.
Good for you.
That case looks like was in a